Okay, hi and welcome everyone to this next presentation here at ABG Investor Days. My name is Simon Granat. I work as an equity analyst at ABG, covering IT and tech companies. And in my coverage, I have Pricer. So we are very happy to present Magnus Larsson, CEO of Pricer, who will present the company for about 20 minutes, and then we will follow up with a shorter Q&A session. So with that said, Magnus, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you everyone that's here, and thank for everyone that's online. As mentioned to the people here in the audience, I do this in English. If there are any questions in Swedish, we can do it afterwards as well. Delighted to be here. I will try to make a general presentation on Pricer for those of you that don't know the company that well, and then I'll hopefully have some insights also for those that have followed us or are shareholder as well. So it will be a mixed bag. But I would like to start with our vision. We worked quite a lot last year on our strategy. Where do we want to be? How do we want to address the market? And I felt that we had to do something on the vision. So we spent a lot of time with the management team. We tested it with customers. We tested it with the board, of course. And this is what we landed in. We want to become retail's first choice in shelf edge, automation and communication. So what does that really mean? I think if you're a non-retailer, the first word that you might actually react on is the shelf edge. For most retailers, if you speak about shelf edge, that would pretty much be anything in the store that is doing some kind of promotion, something that it's not the product they sell. If it's on the shelf edge, if it's hanging in the roof, it's on the wall, it's all shelf edge. So to us, it's indicate that we are working in the space of the physical store. First choice, what does that mean? Well, do we want to be number one in every single market? That would, of course, be nice. But given the possibilities we have to develop the company, the boundaries that we have, we want to make sure that we are the first choice from the retailers. So their preference in every single interaction with Pricer should be they want Pricer. From the first meeting they have, could be in a presentation or at an exhibition, or it could be the first tender they get, the first customer support they have. Whatever it might be, we want them to say that Pricer is by far the best choice. Then we can make up our mind if we want to be their number one as well. Today we are number one or number two in France. I actually don't really know. But assuming that we were number two, would it make sense to invest more money to be number one in the French market? Probably not. Then it's better we take that investment and make it in a market where we want to be number one, like the US. So that's the rationale behind the first choice. Then automation and communication. We have historically focused a lot on automation. How can we help a retailer be more effective in the store when it comes to replenishment, picking, how to work with price updates? But we haven't spent that much time on the communicative part. How can we help them with promotion? How can we make sure that they actually increase the customer spend in the store? That they stay in the store, it's a pleasant experience, and that they actually put a few extra items in the basket, and preferably something where they have a better profitability from the shopper point of view. So that's what we're actually covering with the vision. Are we there now? No. Wouldn't be very compelling vision if that was the case, but that is clearly ambition. It will take time. So whatever we do now, this is what we think about. This is also, I told my colleague that this is a mandate I give them. If you are in charge of support in Italy, as an example, and they feel they need to take a decision, they can always make the choice. What I'm doing right now, is that making us retail's first choice? So I told them, it's a mandate I give you now. Let's use it, make sure that we have happy customers, make sure that we are continuously first choice. That means that we will probably make some decisions that are not the right ones, but they're decisions that we then can manage later on, and we make sure we keep a happy customer. So for those that don't know us in detail, we were founded in '91. So we are more than 30 years old as a company. We have primarily sold digital labels where you do the pricing. That was the original idea. And out of those, we sold something like, it's actually more than, probably closer to 290 million labels by now, that we have in more than 22,000 stores across the globe. Round about 200 employees. We are growing the number of employees as well. We'll come to that. And we have been growing quite fast over the last year. The market is growing fast, and our ambition is actually to grow faster than the market. I think we managed last year, but I'm not entirely sure because it seems like the market is growing very fast. So what are driving the market growth? There is a very recent study from Gartner by their analyst Sandeep on what are the key priorities for a CIO in retail space, where he's been interviewing people from the tier 1 retailers across pretty much all segments, grocery or do-it-yourself or whatever it might be. And these are the three main ones, and Sandeep called it the triple squeeze. It's of course the inflation. For most companies, inflation is a bad thing when it comes to growing their business. For us, it's been a good thing, because when a grocery retailer, when a retailer are facing inflation, they need to do frequent updates. And to give you an idea, now during spring, Carrefour in their hypermarkets, they were making 20,000 individual price updates in every single hypermarket in France. And if you want to do that with paper, it's virtually impossible. So here we can see that this has been pushing the interest and the need to invest further. It's also getting more expensive with staff in many markets. Some of them has been just a general increase due to the inflation, but then we have markets like the UK where we see that after Brexit, it's been more difficult to actually to get staff, which would be the third, would be one of the parts, but also to actually the pricing and the salaries of the staff has gone up, which is also a driver to say that yes, we need to digitize in the store. Sandeep is also referring to continuing supply chain disruption. We actually don't see it that much right now. We see that from our point of view, the supply chain has improved, but this is probably more referring to what the actually retailers face when they need their supplies to actually fill the stores and fill the shelves to sell it. But what we see is that this has also actually been improving from our point of view. So what do they spend? What do they want to get out of the money they are investing? And they plan to actually invest now over this is the previous 2 years, but I think that this will be pretty much the same for the coming years. Customer experience is number one, and this is not only for online, but this is also the physical brick and mortar store. We can see that making the physical store relevant is really important for the customers that I meet and that my colleagues meet. They have an online presence often, but they want to make sure they have an equally attractive physical preference, and they want to drive customers into the store. Grow revenue, I think that's pretty obvious to anyone in business. Operational excellence, cost efficiency, I mean, that has been one of the key drivers for what we do. But I think also now looking at introduce new product services, business continuity, resilience, all these things are part of in an increasing discussion with the retailers. I will come back to that one on how they want to position the self-service store. I will cover that a little bit later. But these are some of the key reasons when they actually make an investment. But I think right now the customers that I meet and that we meet, they are mitigating risk. They want to make sure that they do not have the risk. Now, inflation, they want to make sure that there is the right price on the shelf, so there is no difference. And I think that has been driving the risk of actually not increasing the price in time when their costs have gone up. So either selling at loss or selling at the low profitability is the number one, really the number one issue. That is pushing a lot of investments. We could see it last year where people with a contract and readily available money, they were making investment decisions. That were typically franchisees. You have your own store, you belong to a central group where there is a contract with us or someone else. They made a lot of investment decisions last year. So we could see that the growth in this specific segment was almost growing, I think 4 or 5 times, only in Q4. This year we can now see that the retail owned and operated stores, like Carrefour's or Tesco's, their own stores, they are now investing. So last year they did the budgeting. Now we can see they're actually doing the investment. We can see it from the discussions we have had at the numerous exhibitions, but we also see it now from the orders that we start receiving from these customers. They have to do it. And we had a CEO for a larger retailer that we spoke to a while ago, and he said, I have no choice. I need to make an investment. And yes, we're in discussions with these guys. We hope to sell. It's not a done deal, but we can clearly see it's a need, and they have not worked with anything but paper before. A reminder on where we want to be. So you saw the vision. So the vision will help us reach this target, hopefully. We want to almost double our revenue compared to 2022 at 4.5 billion Swedish krona. We want 10% of this revenue to be recurring. So this is a change, a pretty major change for us, where we've been very much of a hardware and software company. Now we're moving more clearly into SaaS and solutions. Our technology should be cloud-enabled. That's actually a phrase that I stole from one of your texts, Simon. I really liked it, cloud-enabled technology. So we're actually pushing the configurations up from the hardware into the cloud, because that also gives us a new opportunity to do new business models and totally different types of business models. So you will see more of this when we monitor the recurring revenue. And the target is that you should see it now ticking up until it reaches 10% at the end of 2025. And then, of course, I need to do some bragging. A few weeks ago, we got an announcement from Carrefour that we've been selected as their exclusive vendor for 3 years. This was actually not a given. It was a pretty hard procurement round. We know that their procurement department, they were looking at having 2 different vendors. I think that was actually what they wanted to do from start. So we of course hoped that it would be us, even that was not a given either. But at the end of the day, we had a lot of discussions. Of course, there was negotiations, there were tough ones, but we landed in winning everything. And I think what actually made it flip to our advantage to be the sole supplier, and actually instead of getting the desired 2-year but 3-year contract with Carrefour, was they made shootout between us and competition. They did basically massive price upgrades, and they were checking, how things were going. And out of the number of stores that we had, and the stores the customer had, the competitors had, we actually got 2 customer complaints. But they were not from our stores, they were from competitor stores. And we could see that they had serious problems actually getting the volume of prices updated on the time needed. And I think that was probably one of the reasons they actually decided to go all on with Pricer and continue with ourselves. We have had a contract with them since before. We've actually been working for almost 20 years together. Here we can see it's exclusive, it's a global contract, but the focus is what they call the G6 countries. It's France, it's Belgium, Italy, Spain, Romania, and Poland. And we've been active together with Carrefour in primarily France, Belgium, Italy has started to grow, Romania started to grow. But now we can see that there's a clear intention to actually deploy in all these countries and to actually harmonize the installed base to actually make sure that when we're done, it should be all Pricer. That's the target. And we haven't communicated any numbers, but we are working very close together with the Carrefour team to actually do the joint planning on all the markets, on what is the numbers, what are the formats, how should we progress. So you will actually see the result on the quarterly result. I would be dying to actually tell you more, but I'm actually not allowed to do it right now. What I would like to also highlight here is actually, normally when we do this kind of releases, it's quite common that we would actually give an example, a proposal to the customer saying, this is what actually the press release could look like. And then they will say, yeah, this is good, this is not good, and then they will take it ahead. But actually this quote was written by Miguel and his team on their own. And what I really liked was, of course, he highlights pricing, automation. That's what we've done jointly for a long time. But now we also put emphasis on promo and retail media. And retail media is now, you can say, the collective name of any kind of communication within the store, where you merge what we have done historically, the digital labels, but also digital signage, where it's communication across any screen. And we can see there is interest in actually most markets now to actually do this. And the intention is to really improve the customer experience, to improve the customer spend. So actually when they leave the store, they leave happy and just dying to get back to the store to do another purchase. Well, maybe that's my dream, but that's sort of the decision that we want them to go. And we can see that also customers like Carrefour are hoping that this market will develop. So it's still in early phase. We have done the launch of the products. We are now busy installing it at the number of customers. It is pilot installs initially, because just like ourselves, the retailers want to test this. Can they actually get the money out of it that they expect? So it's about where do we put it in the store, how do we communicate, and what is actually the return. So we want to be able to correlate the actual increase in sales that they get from the system with the signage that we actually put up. So we will, for the first installs, monitor this to make sure we can come back with actually tangible numbers. So it's of course good for the sales pitch to our customers, but also to be able to present to yourself saying that this is actually what we believe could happen on the market. And this is an example of what it could look like. Here you have a merge of our digital labels and the signage. This is something we presented now at the Euroshop exhibition in Düsseldorf a few months ago. So typically you can imagine a promotional corner in the store. You would not have this everywhere in the store, but maybe you would have it in 3, 4, 5, 10 places, depending on the size of the store. You would typically do it together with the brands, whomever they are, where you actually have an appealing video, an eye-grabbing video that will make people look and hopefully then catch their interest. But we also have virtual digital labels that you can see on the screen. They could be transparent, they could look like one of our labels, it could be pretty much any format. And this has created an unexpected large interest actually, not only within our retail customers, but also within restaurants as an example, that see that these LED stripes and the way we present data has been something they really like. So we're testing it, might be something new, or we just realized that it's been good to test it. This is the first install. Next will be that we'll communicate across any screen. Same system, same databases, same everything. But then we will also look at adding engines for advertisement to make sure that for the retailer, when you have the system in place, they should be able to actually do the advertisement the way they want. If they want to do their own commercials, do they want to sell it to brands? Do they want to sell it to Google? Should Google be interested? That's the next step, and we have had a lot of these kind of discussions as well. But so far, I think it's a market that has to be tested. It's interesting, it's strategic, but we need to also prove it. So you can see it more as a commercial opportunity at this point of time than a commitment that it will be a great thing. We have also been working more with our basic offering. I feel that over the last year we did a lot of different things. So now we want to make sure we go back a little bit to basics. The focus has been on how do we actually help a retailer present themselves in the right way. If you imagine that you have a duty-free store or you sell a beauty store, these guys, they have spent millions on making sure the store looks exactly the way they want. Then the question is, having a plastic tag with white frame and glass, is that exactly the way they want to present themselves? Some of them, yes, but some of them feel that maybe this is not the right way. So we spent a lot of time thinking, how can we address that specific need? So we are now, both from an innovation point of view, looking at the future of ESL, but we're also trying to find different form factors. And to the left here, you find a label that we just now launched. We are installing it in the first stores to really verify the feasibility. We call it the hang tag. It's actually made in a way that you get the perfect image. You should be able to present yourself the way you want, but you should actually be able to do it on the hook, like you see on the picture, and without having to lift the label. And then this one, it's called, you can take a blister pack like this one and just put it on or put it back. So from a customer point of view, extremely easy. And imagine that I spoke to one of our competitors at the exhibition, and they said that this was the talk of the town in their booth, because today on the market, like, there is nothing really like this one. You have other versions, but it's also a way to see, and this is something that especially the do-it-yourself stores, imagine Bauhaus or Brico Dépôt or Castorama, that they would actually be interested in. And then, of course, we look at 4-color. And we have seen a massive increase now in interest from 4-color, which went from interest to hype to actual orders and installation. So we communicated that we are actually doing now 5 stores down in Skåne region with ICA, only 4-color. We have it now in Canada, we have it in US. We just won our first smaller chain in the UK. And it's not insider information, it's a small deal, but it's a first deal. So it's only 4-color. So that's something we'll, as soon as it's installed, that we will actually present. We see it from Australia, New Zealand, Japan, everywhere. This is actually what people are talking about. And we have a very good position on the market when it comes to 4-color. We're also discussing it with a lot of the key retailers in the US market, where this has been one of the key things. So that's why I wanted to also highlight the 4-color. We're also looking more on the different sizes than we did before. We had a tendency sometimes to close the door a little bit too early, saying it's not part of our portfolio. Now we changed the way we work to make sure that we can build prototypes very fast. So if someone said, I want this size, we can actually make it quite fast within a month. And if they then say that I still want this size, but I want to have 1 million units or tens of millions of units, well, then we still can do it at the right price within, let's say, 6 months. So we have sort of modularized the way we work, which has also been one of the things to actually get the core right. This was not possible before. Where do we focus? US. It's a market that is growing immensely, and I think now it will grow even faster. There was an announcement that one of our competitors is now going to go ahead with a 500-store deployment. I'm extremely happy to see that, because that's also very easy for us to now go to the other customers and say, well, now you see this happening, so let's go ahead. We are, of course, in several discussions as well. So it's hard to say, will we see it happen now during autumn, that the first orders will come out? Will it be next year? I cannot really say. I can keep my fingers crossed. But that it will happen, I have no doubt. UK, I was presenting at the Retail Technology Show in London a few weeks ago. And compared to before, it's a totally level of dialogue now with the UK retailers. They've been careful before, but now we can see there's a tangible interest. Once again, they have money. They want to go ahead. So I think we will see a lot of things happening in the UK market. So this is one of the markets where we will engage more and invest more. Australia shows a clear interest. France, I thought it would be pretty much nothing happen, since it's a mature market, but it's a lot of ordering happening. It's to my surprise growing. Spain, you can expect more business here. And in Germany, we haven't been successful so far. And we will probably not be successful this year either. But we're now laying the foundation to be successful into the future. So I hope to be able to present to you success in Germany, maybe not this year, but a little bit later. I see that is it time to wrap up?
Yes.
So I will just quickly say, we have spoken about a factory in Germany. We are now producing out of Bavaria. We now had the official opening. So this is the combination of our Pricer team and the Solner team. We own the gear, we own the IPR. It's actually a setup that we can choose to put everywhere, anywhere in the world. Actually everywhere as well, but where we want, because it's actually based on fully optimized production. Should I do final slides, Simon?
Go ahead.
Where do we spend our money? Sales and delivery. We see this massive customer interest. We need to make sure that we can capture it. So we are investing in salespeople and delivery people. Anything that's actually needed to ensure that we get whatever we sell out to our customers. We are deploying now a second R&D site. We'll do it out of Taipei. The recruitment is ongoing, and we expect it to be operational during autumn. It's a way to get more people and more engineers, but yet keeping the cost of growth down, so we can actually reduce the OpEx per head. Supply leadership. If we are to grow as we plan, we need to make sure that when we do that, we are effective in our supply, both from a COGS point of view, but of course also from an environmental point of view. And getting factory close to our customers is a big part of that, to get the supply without too much carbon dioxide footprint, but also to make sure that we have short lead times and we actually don't tie capital longer than needed. And finally, thanks Simon, Cloud Tech. What you will see from us will be Plaza-based, and that's our SaaS solution. It will be Plaza-enabled. If you want our technology, you will have to buy our SaaS solution. It will be the entry ticket to all things Pricer into the future. That's pretty much what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Magnus.
Thank you.
Certainly an interesting presentation and a growth journey that you have entered for many years, and looks to be also promising down the road here.
Yes.
But just to complement your presentation, I'd like to ask a couple of other questions,
Please.
not only about the growth opportunities, but the gross margin has been in decline for some quarters. Could you talk a little bit about the gross margin outlook going into H2? You talked about it in conjunction with the Q1 report, but what do you see here?
I'd be happy to. So there's been a number of things affecting the gross margin. during the pandemic and then the war in the Ukraine, of course, you could see that there were impact on costs. But we can see that that has been improving. So I think that what we are doing now, we have done a lot of strategic. Actually, we have set up 5 strategic programs. One is on working capital, another one is on how to address the COGS, where we look at everything from the procurement, with which companies we are working. We look at the design of the product. We look at the portfolio. We have had a lot of different products actually in the portfolio. So now we're cutting the portfolio down. We are looking at the processes where we're moving from more of a forecast-based process when we do the product planning to order to production, to actually tie less capital and consequently cost. We are looking at the product mix where we sell more premium labels with more battery, more functionality, 4-color, and we also look at increasing the prices. So we actually had the last successful price negotiation where we increased price of one of our larger customers. We just closed a month ago or so. So we are taking all these kind of measures. We choose last year to communicate the financial targets in terms of revenue, recurring revenue. It is reasonable that we'll return with a profitability target. That we said that so far we're choosing not to do it. We want to make sure we can deliver on the commitments that we've done so far. But we will come back with a profitability target also, because right now I would like to guide you on some kind of financial target that will give you an idea of where we will land. But right now I can just have to keep saying that we will see tangible improvements of the gross margin over the year. And once again, we do have a plan and we do take the necessary steps. But since we haven't communicated these numbers, I cannot guide on. And I know it's difficult when you follow us.
That's great. We are actually running on overtime, but just a very short comment perhaps on the recently announced share issue for Q3. Could you give us any more color on this?
Absolutely. So we announced that we'll do a share issue. What we'll use the proceeds for the growth. You could say that we expect that roughly half will be used actually as a financial cushion to make sure that we can finance the growth. Doing that kind of growth that we look at, it will tie a lot of capital. The remaining part will be done for both increasing the sales and the delivery organization, then focusing on R&D to actually invest in especially now the hub that we have building in Taipei. And then, but also on production. We are thinking about, we haven't made any decision, but we are interested in setting up a factory in the North American market. We believe that given the interest we see on the customer and how I think the Americans would appreciate a made in the US stamp on the digital label, that would be great. So those are the key things where we actually want to spend that money.
Thank you so much. Our time is up. Again, thank you for coming here today, and a big thank you also to the audience.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for coming.